Hello, everybody, and welcome to this event in conjunction with Co-op and the iwill movement. My name is Corin, and I'm an iwill ambassador for Northern Ireland, and I'm your host for today's session, Cooperating for Fairer Communities. This session is a part of iwill Week, an annual celebration of youth social action across the UK. As the iwill movement are building society that understands and champions the power of youth, we and all young people are equipped and able to shape and lead communities and change and lives. This is my journey. So over iwill Week, we have been going to local schools in our area and talking about volunteering, around youth action and social action and altruism. So we've been explaining to young people how to get involved and how to do it and the meaning of that, because you think they would, but some don't. So some people don't actually understand what social action, even some don't even understand what volunteering is. So we go on and explain what that is and how to get involved in doing it, and then set up a wee project where they can do it themselves. So in class, in their school, we set up a wee project where they can actually get involved and donate to charities through the school money, where they've set an amount that we can use. We have also designed and printed out posters to do with mental health and youth mental health. So it is helplines for suicide prevention and just all around general mental health, not even bad mental health, but good mental health. So we have stuck them around the area, and then that's all that we've done this week. So it's been a jam-packed week because it's been an everyday thing. That's me, but today we'll hear from the iwill movement funders, the Co-op, and how they build connection through cooperating with businesses, local courses, communities, stakeholders to create the maximum impact, putting the power into the hands of the community to tackle issues that matter for sustainable digital solutions. We will be asking you for your input, holding a conversation around how we can cooperate and better place. We're first going to hear from Jackie at the Co-op. Jackie works in the Co-op's community and member participation team. She has the best job there, and it's her job to define how the Co-op can work and support our fair communities for young people. Over to Jackie now to hear more.
Hello everyone, thank you so much, Karen, for a great introduction, and it's great to hear about what you've been up to over this last week as well. It's been an amazing week, and I'm very proud to be part of it and be able to be here today. It's a real honour. So I'll give you first of all a little bit of history as to, I suppose, why you're hearing from Co-op today, if you don't know that already. And then a bit about what we think that potentially makes this a very, very special partnership. So as the Co-op group, and that's for those of you that are sort of new to the world of Co-op, it is the Co-op group that has the food stores and funeral care homes out in communities across the UK. We also have an insurance business and legal services business. Now we started a partnership with UK Youth to expand the iwill movement in Scotland and Northern Ireland in June of this year. So this is all really quite new for us. We also work really closely alongside the Co-op Foundation, who are the Co-op's charity, and you'll hear more about them later. And they have quite a long-standing relationship with the iwill movement themselves as well. So I'll go back a little bit more in time. I'm going to go into why we've got this sort of this picture on the screen there and give you a little bit of history. Now I can't actually see the chat, but I was gonna ask you, does anyone know who the old dudes in the black and white picture are? If anyone wants to pop it in the chat, see how good your cooperative history is. Nick Crofts, you're not allowed to answer. Yes, the Rochdale Pioneers. So those guys are the Rochdale Pioneers. And in 1844, those were a group of 28 men. There goes my doorbell of all things, but I will ignore it. They were a group of 28 men. I say men, unfortunately, they were all men, although there is a conspiracy theory that at least one of them was a woman in disguise. And I'm quite happy to continue to spread that rumour. So 28 men, potentially 27 and one woman, came together to form the first ever cooperative society. And they did that because they could see an inherent fairness in the communities that they were living in. They could see that businesses and people were getting richer while the poor were getting poorer, and they sought to change that. Now, what's really, really interesting about those 28 people is that actually, although this picture shows some pretty impressive mutton chops, right, it was taken quite a while after the first cooperative society was set up. And in fact, 5 of them were under the age of 25 and 3 were only 19 years old. And that's the kind of change they enacted at that age. So these men and hopefully one woman came together and said, we're going to have a different way of doing business. We're going to have a way of doing business that's cooperative. And what it means to be a cooperative is that everyone has a fair share in decision making, everyone has a fair share in the profits of a cooperative. So when you put money in as a member of a cooperative, that money is invested back into members and back into communities. And that model that was set up back in 1844 is still core to the way in which we do business today, and absolutely resonates with how we operate our funding within communities. So this is all around the role of funders within communities today, and you'll see that coming through as I go into that in just a moment. We could see clearly, and the reason we've got a little merge there into the iwill movement picture is once we started this relationship with the iwill movement, the sparks were flying over some of this connection that we have of these two, the principles and the values that we have as two movements coming together. So, as most people on this call will know, the iwill movement started as a campaign in 2013, and it was all around ensuring that young people's voices are being heard in decision making, a bit like the decision making of those Rochdale pioneers. And nearly 10 years on now, it's a movement that is focusing on a place-based approach, ensuring young people are equipped and enabled to shape and lead local change through youth social action. So that local change, that community-based approach, again, that's absolutely the sort of heartland of where we are as a cooperative. It's about those local businesses, that local convenience store, the funeral care home that comes together around a community. So we can see there that huge synergy between these two movements. I'll now just very quickly, because I don't want to have, we've got plenty to get through, just take you through a little bit about what the cooperation looks like within our community today. So if you just flick to the next slide, thank you. This looks like a lot, just not too much. So when I say, we are absolutely a funder, because when members shop with us in store, you may know that 2 pence of every pound that you spend on co-op products gets invested back into communities. And this is what we do with that money. This is how we invest it. So yes, we invest it in community partnerships, but actually we invest quite heavily in having community assets that enable us to really make a real change and difference with the funding that we provide within a community. And I'll take you through what those assets are. So first and foremost, and I think our most exciting investment and asset that we have within a community is our member pioneers. So these are amazing individuals that work with us for 4 hours a week in paid roles, paid for by the co-op. So they may have co-op jobs in other parts of the co-op, but most of them don't. These could be people from all walks of life and different backgrounds and gone to be a member pioneer. And what they are, the 3 things we refer to them. They're connectors. So they're a team of community connectors, and they'll help to connect different people together within a community. What are you guys? Sorry, I'm getting distracted by the chat. So yeah, it is. It's the baby in the high chair, absolutely. Future member pioneer. So yes, they're connectors. They help connect people together. They're catalysts. So they're people that can inspire people to make change and make a difference within their community. And they're communicators, so they're people that can shout a little bit about all the great stuff that's happening within a place and within a community, which is a vital role to do. So those are our member pioneers. There are 1,000 of them across the UK, operating at a very localised level. And that is all going to be brought to life perfectly in just a moment when I hand over to the wonderful Emma. I'll quickly whiz through the rest of what I spend most of the time on member pioneers. We also have Cooperate, which is our online community centre. That's a great way of digitally bringing communities together. On there, we have over 20,000 community groups which you can access, and around 40,000 volunteering opportunities through Cooperate. And that's a growing digital tool that we're investing in. Co-op Academy Trust next. So it's probably one of our best kept secrets that as co-op we actually have 30 Academy Trust schools. Most of them are in the north of England, a little bit into the Midlands. But there again, those are schools that are founded on those cooperative values and principles that the young students within those schools absolutely live and breathe on a day-to-day basis. Next is our local community fund. Super proud of this. This has been going now since 2016, and we've invested nearly £117 million into giving to very local community causes that are chosen by our members. So and I'm sure that Emma will bring some of that to life for you shortly. Next is our community partnership fund. So this is the fund that has helped pay for our relationship with the iwill movement. So this is where we can work on more strategic, larger scale projects. And finally, Co-op Foundation, which is the Co-op's charity. I mentioned it at the start earlier, but the best person to tell you a little more about what the Co-op Foundation do and what makes them so special is the Co-op Foundation's CEO. So that's Nick Cross. So I'm just going to hand over to Nick now to explain more about the foundation.
Thanks, brilliant. Thanks very much, Jackie. So we are the Co-op's charity, and we are cooperating for a fairer world. We firmly believe that cooperation is at the heart of strong communities, and that makes us a different kind of funder. We work closely with communities, we listen and we learn. We asked young people to shape our vision, and now we're cooperating with them and others to turn this into a reality. We launched our trailblazing new strategy last month, and it's called Building Communities of the Future Together. We developed this strategy with young people, with community groups, and with our colleagues at the Co-op to help us add value to the Co-op's vision and to deliver distinctly cooperative funding into communities. And there are three principal components to this strategy. First of all is that vision that I mentioned. It's a vision of fair communities in 10 years' time, built on cooperative values. And we mobilized an incredibly diverse group of 100 young people to help us create this vision. It's their vision, and it will help us to tackle issues like inclusivity, health, and youth power. The second component is a new and distinctly cooperative way of funding organisations, and for the first time ever, individual young people, all to bring the Future Communities vision to life. Our funding is set to be long-term, flexible, and rooted in cooperation as we focus on celebration of learning. And then thirdly, a commitment to cooperating with others. The clue being in the name, you might say. We'll cooperate with the Co-op and with other funders to make our funding go further and to build on our impact. Now, we think this is really bold. It's a key declaration of intent, but being youth informed is actually something that's been building for some time for the foundation. Since 2018, young people have used their lived experience to advise us on how we allocate grants to youth projects. In 2021, for example, this included 1.4 million to youth social action projects supported through our iwill fund. And since 2019, more than 100 young people have helped to create our Lonely Not Alone campaign, designed to tackle the stigma of youth loneliness. And from our iwill fund, almost 16,000 young people from 84 projects take part in youth social action across England to help their peers and their community. We're proud to be youth informed, but thanks to our new strategy, we're now going to be youth led and even more closely aligned with the Co-op's already world-class community work. We're going to do this by working with young people as part of our new Future Communities Collective. This group will shape our new Future Communities Fund and assess applications, and the young people are going to be involved at every stage of that fund. And excitingly, or at least excitingly for me, the first round of this fund is launched today, and you can find out more on our website. It's a £1.5 million new fund. We're going to continue to support our iwill funded partners with continuation funding. We've awarded almost £700,000 to 19 further projects so far. And just this week, we signed the Power of Youth Charter alongside the Co-op. We did this on Monday, right at the start of iwill week, and we'll be encouraging other funders and other charities to do the same. And we're going to continue to build our links with the wider co-op family. It's a big family, if you didn't realise that already, including the Cooperative Academies Trust, and more importantly, their students, who can help to feed into our decision-making, and our amazing member pioneers who will share information about our funds for communities. We are proud to be the Co-ops charity and to be cooperating for a fairer world. And as I never tire of saying, let's build communities of the future together. Jackie, back to you.
Thank you very much, Nick. It's amazing. It's amazing work on the new strategy and the funds there. So I'm going to now hand over very quickly back to me, because I'm now going to hand over to Emma Porter and just tell you a little bit about Emma before I do that. So Emma is an iwill ambassador, and she is also a member pioneer. So she has two of the best roles going. At 18 years old, she's an absolute inspiration, and you are about to see why. So I'll hand over to Emma now. You can see how some of what we've both Nick and I have been talking about comes to life within a community through our member pioneers. So over to you, Emma.
Thank you. So hi everybody, as already introduced, I'm Emma. So I'm an iwill ambassador, but I'm also a member pioneer. So my sort of plan, what I'm going to go over is I'm going to give a little bit of background of the stuff I've done in the past, and then sort of my work as a member pioneer. I became a member pioneer in August, but you tend to find that a lot of the stuff I've done in the past actually aligned really, really closely with what I do as now as a member pioneer. So I think is there slides to go up? Yep. Yep. So what next one? So I've been involved in sort of community-based action work since I was 12. I come from Springburn, so it's one of the most deprived areas in sort of the whole of the UK. And I've always sort of found that a lot of the community was not, like, they had no pride in sort of where they came from. And one thing I sort of always had was sort of pride in where I came from. Like, if you ask me, I say I'm from Springburn, I don't say I'm from Glasgow, even though I live in Glasgow. So since about the age of 12, I basically discovered that there was no places to sit in the whole community. So I've always loved parks, and you could always go for a walk in the park. And if you go to any park anywhere locally, there's seats and there's lots of stuff you could do. But in my local park, like, all the benches were falling apart and there was no you could sit. And also at the same time, so many young people were getting blamed for like hanging about the street, but they didn't have anywhere to go and sit. So in 2016, I got funding off of the Scottish Government to create this area here. So me, along with a couple other young people, we basically decided to create an outdoor seating area for the whole community, but specifically for young people, so that during class time they could come and sit in it, during holidays they could come and sit in it, but also developed into an outdoor classroom. And this gave an outdoor learning opportunity to so many local schools, because we didn't have any form of outdoor learning opportunity currently when this was built. So this officially opened in 2018, and we had a big open day along with RSPB, and we had about 4,000 people attend it. So it was a really big, good day, and it was the whole community coming together for the first time. So that's sort of how I got started. But as a lot of people, especially young people, know themselves, if you're a young person doing community work, you can tend to just sort of get dragged into everything. So from this, I started getting involved in my community council, started getting involved in a local development trust called Spirit Springburn. I'll say a little bit more about them in a couple of minutes. But one thing I always found is that I was the only young person in the whole community that was ever like doing anything. I was always in a meeting with like people that were like 40, 50. I was always in a meeting sort of arguing with people, saying, for instance, a lot of shops would tend to like ban young people from going in at lunchtime because there was too many of them, and everybody else would see that's okay, but me going like, but that's not fair on a young person, because it doesn't matter if your age, you should be allowed in. And stuff like for instance, there was a new play park getting built, and whereabouts would that play park go? People had decided they wanted that because it was next to a nursery, so that parents could take it when they were taking their kids. But there was also the fact that we wanted it somewhere else that was next to a primary school, so people could actually use it right after school. So it was actually making sure that young people were heard when they were doing stuff. And from that, what I decided to do was I created a youth forum. So if we go into the next slide. So in 2019, I created Springburn Youth Forum. So it was the first sort of youth forum anywhere near my local area at all. So it started with literally just me in community council meetings ranting to all of my elected members about stuff that they were saying was true that wasn't true. And basically and from that, we've now got a core committee of about 10 committee members. And we also have like a membership of literally we work with all local schools, we work with all local young people, anybody at all we work with. So we basically say that if you're involved with us in any shape or way, you're a member. So first thing that we sort of did is young people were getting blamed a lot for litter. So right next to my high school, there's a shopping centre, and there would basically be litter everywhere. But the main reason there was litter everywhere was because there wasn't a single bin anywhere near. And so the first thing that we ever sort of campaigned on was to get bins. And we got the first bins in the whole of Glasgow to actually be concreted in and put in place. So I'm not sure how much information people know about this, but basically the bins in Glasgow, they got the new big sort of like bins that said People Make Glasgow, but they weren't actually specifically allocated in a place, and we got the first bins to be put in that place. Other things we have done is, for instance, if you look at the top right corner, so Springburn was based library, was one of the last libraries in the whole of Glasgow to actually get reopened, and it was going to potentially not get reopened ever again. So what we did is we campaigned for about 2.5 years to actually get the library open to functioning hours that people could use, because basically we were sitting with a library, it was open 2 days a week, but every other library in Glasgow, well, almost every other library in Glasgow was open 5 days a week. So we got it to open 7 days a week and have staff in it and have lighting, and that also meant that it could actually be used as a sort of warm bank during the winter for the local area as well. So that was a big thing we campaigned on. We work with organisations such as Scottish Youth Parliament and Glasgow Youth Council on different campaigns, but the primary thing that we do is consultations. So every summer we run our summer consultation, and it's basically hours and upon hours of us asking young people what they want in their local area, and we would publish this big massive report and then invite all stakeholders in the local area, elected members, different organisations, to sort of say, this is what young people want, how can you get involved? So we've done stuff with organisations such as SAMH, we've done it with Partick Thistle Charitable Trust, we've done it with elected members, we've done it with our local community development trust, sort of everybody in the whole community, getting them to listen to young people. And then another big thing that we've worked on is on the bottom right corner, you can't really see it, but we are us and one other youth firm that we work really closely with are the only organisation in the whole of Glasgow that can actually help do bus pass forms officially. So we've been campaigning since the very first day that free travel for under 22s was announced, to actually raise to people that young people didn't have Young Scot cards, from the very first day that was announced. And we spent months campaigning last year to get young people Young Scot cards. And then other stuff had happened where it found out that young people actually needed to have new Young Scot cards, but we've worked with the likes of Glasgow Life, fought with them for literally years to try and make the application process easier for young people, especially for young people from deprived areas who are less likely to have, for instance, a bus pass or to have a passport or a birth certificate like they would need to apply. And from that, we've worked with the likes of Patrick Harvey, etc., to literally just make the application process as easy as we could, and therefore ending up being one of the only organisations that could actually do it. So from me creating this youth form, we actually created youth forms all around us, and there's now about 7 youth forms in our local area. Next slide. So one of our big projects that we started off with was a bench project. So this is it here, was to get an outdoor recycling seating facility in Springburn. So in Springburn currently, like, there's no recycling facilities, and there's no other than this area that we created up in this park. We wanted a space for young people to sit during lunchtime, because currently they were sitting on the floor inside a shopping centre, and they were getting kicked out and told to sit in the middle of the pouring rain. So we created this outdoor seating area. We've been working on this for about 3 years, but we've had, like, for instance, the Children's Commissioner and everything that involved in this. So that shows that from young people just wanting to make a small difference in their community, we've had a big impact Glasgow-wide and Scotland-wide. Next one. So as I said at the start, I've, as well as working with the youth forum, so I'm the chair and I'm the founder, so a lot of my time gets focused on that, but I'm the vice chair of the local community development trust called Spirit of Springburn, and we do all sorts, and it's all about giving people pride in their community, because one thing I find is that if someone's proud of where they come from, then they're more proud of themselves, and then the impact that can have when you're proud in yourself is amazing. So in August this year, over the last year, leading up to August last year, I was working with a newly founded group called the New Scots Forum, and the idea behind that was to reduce hate crimes that were happening in the local area. We've been working with Scotland and the local elected members to reduce this, and we created this event, and it was basically called the Family Friendly Cultural Gallery, and it literally had every community group in the whole of Springburn and surrounding areas together, including any form of cultural group. We had Gambian food, we had Chinese food, we had Korean food, we had every form of food that you could think of that was in our local area, and this was completely run by local people. But it also, as I said, had every form of community group, and it's the biggest sort of time I've ever, and we've had so many of like our elected members and so many people that had came from like all across Glasgow to see it, because they had just said that it's the first time they've ever seen a community event where it's literally just been the community. It's not been other people coming along, it's not been other people, it's been everybody coming together as one, which, as you'll know, is a very key theme with a cooperative, is bringing everybody together to talk and work together. Next one. So you're probably wondering how from all of that I got involved in the co-op and being a member pioneer. So basically, from Spirit Springburn, which is the Community Development Trust, the youth forum works really closely with them, mainly just because everybody in the youth forum is under the age 18 because it's completely youth led, except me who turned like 18 last month, but we work up to the age of 25. So basically, the Community Development Trust was like our parent organisation that sort of just helped us with funding applications, etc. when we needed to. So I got involved in that, and I'm now the vice chair. We ran a community consultation with over 4,000 responses in 2019. It's called Charette, and basically the idea was to see what people wanted in the local area. And from that, we opened a local community hub. So the community hub changes constantly depending on what people need. We literally just adapt to whatever people need in the community. And we were a food bank, for instance, during lockdown. We are still a food bank now, but we have an amazing new aspect called the community fridge. So community fridge opened in January last year. Well, January this year, so it's almost been open for a year. And we get about 400 people using it a week. And they come from mainly the local area, but they can come from all over Glasgow. So community fridge is actually funded by the co-op in partnership with Hubbub. And the idea is all about reducing food waste. So the difference between a community fridge and a food bank is basically a food bank, people come and they get stuff that they need. A community fridge is open to everybody, and it's all donations from local shops and local people, the food that would otherwise go to landfill. So for instance, if you had like tins of soup in your house or like pasta in your house that you knew was going to go to dates and you know you're not going to eat it, you could donate it to community fridge, and it could go to somebody who needed it. So I was in here the whole entire summer, and every minute I had free outside of school, literally just sort of helping out. And one of I'm the organizer of the Springburn fridge, obviously because it's based in Springburn. So yeah, we have about 400 people attend the week. This is funded by the co-op, and we also have our local member pioneer help us set it up. So that's a little background of sort of how I first got introduced to co-op. But one thing I will say is that from that time, there's a lot of stuff I've realised, that a lot of organisations, a lot of different things that I've known about in the past that I never actually realised were co-op. And actually working with our member pioneers, I've realised so much of it was through the co-op, and they're so supportive, and they were able to sort of help us get additional funding, they were able to help us get deliveries, etc. like that. So member pioneers, I realised, were a really great role in your community, and were such a good way to connect with them. Next slide. Yep, so as you know, I did become a member pioneer. So the member pioneer we had, I had to got a new job, and basically the role was left vacant. So I've had a really good relationship with the previous member pioneer. I'd known them for about 6 years. And so I was like, they were like, you would be really good at this. Like, you love it and you love cooperating, and you run community fridge and you know all the sort of stuff that does. So I applied for the job, and I started in August. So the first couple of months, a lot of it was just training. So I really started getting involved in it in about October, November. So as you can see, here's a couple of photos from some of the stuff I've done as a member pioneer. So we had our celebration event with our local causes, which is the top left photo. £17 million was raised across the whole of the UK for local community groups. So our local community groups here was a community garden, which provided free meals for people in the community, and also a local baby bank that provided baby clothes and food for local families. The bottom left corner is a Halloween event I attended. Great thing about being a member pioneer is you can pop along to different community events that are happening everywhere. The bottom middle photo is from our sorry, I'm going to get a drink, 2 seconds. Sorry about that. My throat was getting really dry. The bottom middle photo is a photo of our new local causes. So our new local causes are currently a local secondary school, a local swimming club, and the baby bank from before, because they're such an essential service. So local community funds, as I said before, work with our local causes. A lot of my job is working with them to make sure members know that they can select them as a cause, and so that people know about the great work they're doing. We've had a lot of different charity nights, etc., raising awareness of them, and it's been really good. But my favourite thing I have done so far is the right photo. So this is a photo of me attending a local primary school. So one of Co-op's main aims is around climate change. So, and through this we got involved in the climate relay. And the idea behind this was basically running the distance from Glasgow to Egypt. And we got involved in this, and it started off in Glasgow, and obviously being based in Glasgow, we were getting involved in it. So this local primary school obviously couldn't run the distance from Glasgow to Egypt. So what they decided to do was, on a weekly basis, run about the playground until it added up to the distance that they had run to Egypt. So from this, I'd sort of seen they were doing this and thought it was really cool. And I went along one day with some water, some fruit, and got involved. And it was amazing to know that so many young people actually shopped in the local co-op, and they got involved in so much. And from that, we started a great relationship. We're looking at different ways we can recycle more, different climate change-based stuff we can get involved in, and sort of the way this co-op can support them. So that's some of the stuff I've got involved in as a member pioneer so far. I've done the slides are away. So from that, what I will say is member pioneers are all over, and they're so supportive. Member pioneers only do work 4 hours a week, but all those hours they're spending in their local community, they're working so hard to bring people together. So as a iwill ambassador or working with iwill, you're able to do stuff like, for instance, with the local with the youth forum, you could create something along the lines of that, where you could bring young people together with their member pioneer and get them to work together. One thing I'm currently working on is with our new selection of local causes, with it being the local secondary school and a swimming club. We're going to bring their young people together and get them to talk about local issues which are important to them. And from that, as my role as a member pioneer, I'm able to amplify what they're saying and get their voices heard. Other ways we can do it is, for instance, member pioneers hold local forums. So you could get in touch with them, see when their local forum is. And at these forums, you have stuff like local elected members, etc. And you could pop along to these and sort of, again, raise issues that young people are facing in ways that you think they could be solved. And also just work with them, speak to them, see what they're up to and what you're up to, and see what ways you can work together. Ways to get in touch with your member pioneer. So I'm the one for Springburn and Bishopbriggs. So I'm in the Glasgow, East and Lanarkshire team. As I said, there are ones all over the UK. So there's, as I said before, there's the cooperate page. So if you literally just type into Google cooperate, a lot of member pioneers have a cooperate page. They also, if you type in how to find my member pioneer, basically a big list of all the member pioneer coordinators come up, and that will have their area, and they'll be able to signpost you towards somebody. Also, they all have social medias, so please just look them up on social media and you'll probably find somebody. And also, if you want to get in contact with me as an iwill ambassador, see the sort of stuff you could get involved with as a member pioneer, if you're not maybe quite sure about what you could do to start with, please just get in contact with me. I have my own corporate page, so if you want to cooperate and literally just type up Emma Porter, member pioneer, my name will appear. So thank you. That's all my bit done.
Thank you, Emma. We're now going to have a wee question and answer session. You can either put your answer in the chat box or raise your hand, and Jane's going to ask you the questions.
That's great. Thank you very much, Corin, and thank you to Jackie, Nick and Emma for great presentations there. There was one wee chat that came in into the chat box that Jackie has answered within it. So that question was about who can advertise and see the opportunities on Cooperate. So if, I don't know whether Jackie, you want to just say what was you put in the chat, but you did put the link into the chat.
Yeah, absolutely. So Cooperate is open to all. So any organisation, community-based group can add themselves to Cooperate and create a page on Cooperate that explains a bit about your group and what you're there for, what your purpose is, and what events you or opportunities that you may have within your group, and then you can put volunteering opportunities onto there also for people to then access. So please do have a play about on there on the link that I've sent through, and find out a little bit more. And of course, please take a note of my name if you want to be able to talk to me about anything to do with Cooperate. I'd be more than happy to.
Great, thank you. And is there any other questions from the attendees, from anybody that's here? Anybody wants to raise their hand or put it into the chat, then we'll pick it up. I don't see any coming through.
I think we have Diane has her hand up, and Sarah.
Oh, there she has, and Sarah, yes. Sorry, I was looking on page 2 and 3. I didn't look on page 1. Diane, do you want to go first?
Thanks. Hi, I work for Plunkett Foundation, and we support local communities to set up community-owned businesses all over the UK, but primarily in rural areas. And I was really interested in what Corinne said about how some young people don't know what volunteering is, or have just the wrong idea about what it is. And I'd just be really interested to hear how you explain that, or how you sort of combat those ideas about it that are wrong.
Thank you, Diane. Corinne has just momentarily left us, but Sarah, we'll take your question and we'll come back to Corinne.
Yeah, and thank you, Emma and Corinne, for those presentations, just so well put across. But I was just thinking, Emma, when you mentioned 4,000 responses to your local survey, that was just unbelievable. And I just wondered, how did you get that many responses? Like, what approaches did you take? Because then obviously you've got such a great idea of what people want in their local community.
Mm-hmm. So we basically like to do a mix of things, because we tend to find that we don't like doing everything online, because there's quite a few people in our query that aren't online. So we start by going to the local schools. We've got a high school and 3 primary schools, and basically get all of them to complete it. We then have a college as well, and basically we like to have input from the college as well, because obviously so many people who go to the college also live nearby, so we work with them. But we also, in the community centre where the community fridge is, we basically just host open days where we stand at the door and let people walk in and out, speak to them, have chats with them. My favourite part is when we do that, because then basically we get more input than what they originally just say when they're, like, for instance, just filling in a survey. We talk to them about what stuff they do. We also sort of do pop-up days, as I described them. So we go to the local park, or we go to a play park, or we go to like a bus stop and just go, what do you think of this? Basically any form of way that we can possibly get people to fill it in. And we also obviously put it out on social media, etc. It really just sort of, the way I always find it, especially when it comes to getting young people to fill in a consultation, is they won't come to you, you need to go to them. You basically just need to go to wherever they are and just go, can you fill this in for me? One thing we like to do is there is always a lovely gift voucher at the end of it. If they complete it, we always have like a big celebration day for whoever's won like the gift voucher. River Island's really good for gift vouchers for that, we found it.
Brilliant, thanks for that. That's really, really helpful, thanks.
Thanks, Emma. And Corinne, there's a wee question for you from Diane, just in relation to what you were saying earlier at the beginning, about the fact that young people that you're talking to through the schools don't understand what volunteering or social action is. And Diane was interested to see how you explained it in a young person's way. Isn't that right, Diane?
You see, we had a PowerPoint up on schools, there's a whiteboard, so we had it all, like, it was all technical. So we had all the bullet points listed down, and we didn't try and talk and explain it to them, because as a young person ourselves, we know from being in school, somebody standing talking, you're just sitting daydreaming, not even looking at them, just glad to be out of class. So we put it under like a fun way, like we made a video, and then we made a bit where they actually had to tell their own bit about it and try and explain it back to us. just so we knew they understood it. And then bits that they weren't telling back this, we went into more depth about it, and then they got them to explain it back again, and then they were able to explain exactly what it was, how to get involved, why you should do it, why it's important. So that was the questions: why should you do it, why is it important? And then it was a charity. We were making them set up a charity, and they had to think of a charity name. They had to make a team leader in the charity. They had to make an accountant, a charity presenter, a communications officer, and a designer. And then obviously we took them through the role. So like the team leader, they would have had to delegate, they would have had to show leadership skills, they would have had to be supportive, they would have had to be whatnot. And then the accountant, like it would have to be money management, their targets to meet. Just like then we made them all make an overall cost. So one of them done animal rescue there, the last one today. So we had to say, well, the cost, what do you think the costs are? And we said transport, actually stuff like the medical to look after the animals, like we need to buy equipment to look after it. So we just really explained to them and got them to explain back on what they thought, and anything they missed, we give it, like we sort of explain it to them in a more child-friendly way, so they thought they would understand it better, and they would explain it back, yes, no problem. And the feedback was great. We done an evaluation at the end, and it was all good, all the good feedback.
So you definitely find that conversation is a lot better than the PowerPoints and the preaching, isn't that right, Karen? Yes.
Definitely, because when we were standing up, like that was our original plan, but when you get on there and you're actually standing in front of them, you realize that they're not taking this in at all. Like, because I was like, my original plan was to go on and just speak to them, like, because that's the way everyone done it in school else. And then whenever we sat down to go over it before we actually went into the school a couple of weeks back, me and Dominic said, like, this isn't going to work, because it was just writing. It was just like just pages and pages and pages of words. So we're like, they're not going to take this in. And then we give them the evaluation at the end. And like the first day that we done the talking, not many even understood the evaluation because they didn't listen. But after that, then all the evaluation was brilliant, because they knew like what the things meant that was on it, because they listened, and because it wasn't all words, it was through games more or less, and how they were explained.
That links back to, you know, Emma's experience too, in terms of that personal contact, doesn't it? You know, the actual engagement with people works a lot better than you know, than receiving hard copy information, or, you know, lots of jargon and things like that.
Do you know what we found that actually really like communicated with the young people? We had a video, I think it was like a 7-minute video or something, and it was all young people in our communities that's volunteering, doing social action, altruism. So it was young people talking to young people. And it was even, I think some people even might have been from the residential, from the iwill weekend might have been on it, that we got videos over there. So we were showing them videos of people, even younger people, like that was 11, I think they're 10, 11-year-olds. So we were showing them even 10, 11-year-olds in our area that's out volunteering, contact with them, got them to make videos. So they were realizing, I'm not too young to volunteer or to do social action, because that's what a lot of them said. Yes, sure, we can't do it at this age. But that's actually when me and Colt, the other ambassador, we started volunteering. I think I was 9 whenever I started. So you're not too young. Like, that's what we're trying to get the point across. So I think good things are going to come through the schools, to be honest.
Well, that's great. And sure, Emma's old now. Emma's 18. So isn't that right? You've been at it for 6 years, you said. So it's fantastic in terms of that. And that's some of the research that's come through the iwill movement, is that the younger that you catch and encourage and support young people to volunteer, that the longer that they stay and engage throughout their lifetime. So it's great news. Thank you very much. And I suppose, Jackie, that links back into then the co-op in terms of your values, then in terms of a fair society, in terms of that engagement with young people, and then how the co-op can support that through the iwill fund and through your work with the iwill movement. Isn't that right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can see such huge positive alignment with the iwill movement, and the very fact that we do, you do work with people as young as 10, and I think that that's something that you only have to listen to Karen and to Emma to know that you're never too young to get started on these things. So I think, yeah, it's amazing work, and we're so proud to be part of it.
So there's another big question in here: are member pioneers allowed to provide gift cards from co-op? Jackie, Nick,
do you want me to take that? Oh, Emma, do you want to take that as a member pioneer?
Yeah, I can take it. So we aren't allowed to provide gift cards from co-op. We have a small activity budget which can go towards supporting a local community group and stuff they're doing, if it comes under one of the 4 sections. So access to food, so something to do like food, mental health, wellbeing, young people. So pretty much ties into anything sort of iwill based or any young people based, or something climate change based. But we can't give out physical gift cards, so it would be a sort of activity that we would support and bring people together and work with you to do.
Thank you, Emma. Any further questions? No? Are we happy to, Holly?
You could see like my cogs whirring, Jane, couldn't you? You know my face too well. It wasn't a question really, it was just if it's okay, just a couple of reflections really, just from hearing. Thank you, Emma, for describing everything that you do, and Corinne, I didn't know quite how much you were doing as well. Absolutely fantastic. And I guess it was just a couple of reflections really for me. So I'm Holly, I'm part of the iwill movement team, and my background is in community development, and so I've got a personal passion for hyperlocal place-based change. I think, you know, for me, I just know the value of what hello can do to somebody who might feel lonely or isolated. You know, no one knows what's going on in someone else's lives, and being connected to one another by being familiar with other people in your street, in your community, that stuff I really believe changes lives. And so sometimes we don't know the impact of our actions, but you know, going into schools, talking to people in community gardens, talking to people in our corner shops, in our co-op stores, wherever we might be or operate, I truly believe that this is the stuff that makes communities stronger. And if we've got strong networks and communities, if we've got that familiarity, we know one another, we then start to help one another. And if we're starting to help one another by working together, there really is no limit on what we can do. And I just feel so, I don't know, I've got goosebumps all over my body, because everything that you both have been saying this morning, tied into the backdrop of what Jackie and Nick have sort of said, has just made me feel so proud, but also just really excited for the potential of what can be possible. There's lots of people doing great things, but if we do it together, as communities, it might not be super quick, but you know, I think the impact is much stronger and much more kind of long lasting. And yeah, I just wanted to just share those reflections, and to thank you, Emma and Corinne, and all the member pioneers as well up and down the UK for everything that you're doing, because I think it really is making a huge difference to people's lives.
I think Jane's saying thank you, which is muted.
Sorry, I'm on mute. I'm still doing that after so long. Sorry, thanks, Jackie. I just wanted to know whether there's any other reflections just before we ask Corinne to close our session today. If you just want to put up your hand or maybe note into the chat. No, and no, okay, I don't see anybody, so I'll hand back to Corinne to close. Thank you.
Unfortunately, that's all we've got time for. It's been great hearing about the co-op and their communities creating stronger and fairer communities through their work. We hope you enjoy being with us too. Today's conversation is just one of many activities that's been delivered for the years on iwill Week. So make sure to visit iwill.org.uk to see the full listing of event activities and resources. I want to thank you everybody now for participating. Thank yous.